The Texas Longhorns have once again fallen short of the ultimate goal. Ohio State is going on to face Notre Dame in the national championship game. The college football semifinals were great. We've already got a video out covering Notre Dame and Penn State. Go check that one out if you have not seen it already. But today we're talking about Ohio State and we're talking about Texas. And starting off with the Longhorns, this team spent more money than anyone else besides maybe Oregon in the NIL. They got their franchise quarterback. Their offensive and defensive lines are better than pretty much every other team in the country. They got really high-level wide receivers. They dropped a whole lot of money on running backs, and they still lost. And there's a lot of people you can blame for this. The offensive line is going to catch some unjust flack. I personally don't see that. I think 4 sacks, 3 of them were not on the O-line. The receiving room dropped a few passes they really would like back. Again, I don't think it's on them. They balled out. They did a lot after the catch for a certain quarterback. The defense, they did a better job than anybody besides Michigan this year of stopping the Ohio State Buckeyes. They played phenomenal in the trenches all night. Their secondary did a great job in coverage against some of the best wide receivers in college football. Jeremiah Smith completely held in check. We thought that was impossible after last week. But no, the real reason Texas lost, the real reason they are not going to be playing in the college football national championship is because of Quinn Ewers. Quinn Ewers did not play well. His 2 touchdowns, pretty Chuck E. Cheese. One was an underthrow, which his running back had to come back to. He put the Ohio State safety back in the play of the ball. Another one, his wide receiver did everything after the pass. Of the 4 sacks he took, 3 were his fault. 2 stepped up into a perfectly fine pocket. Could have just taken 1 step back and probably found a receiver. And the final one, if you have a weak side defender coming off the edge, which you do not see at all, and let him strip sack you, that is on you. That is not some phenomenal play from Jack Sawyer. That is me thinking maybe Quinn Ewers is giving him the hometown Ohio State discount because they were old roommates back and they let him get one in for free. A really bad showing from Quinn Ewers. A bad showing for the Texas offense by virtue of the fact he was their quarterback. The running game, obviously no one is going to run wild on that Ohio State front 7. Did a fairly good job. Their receivers did a ton after the catch. And if you're going to point the finger of blame at someone, you cannot point it at anyone else besides Quinn Ewers and maybe Sark. But if you're going to point at Sark, you're pointing at him because he wouldn't give up on Quinn Ewers and put Arch Manning in the game.
Yeah, it felt like a coaching chess match, and I was about to say exactly what you just said. I mean, you can applaud Texas's defense for how much they limited Jeremiah Smith, how much they limited Ohio State's passing attack. They got after Will Howard a little bit. Ohio State made a big play, especially at the end of the first half when they break a long screen pass for a touchdown. That kind of took the wind out of Texas's sails, but then they kept back and kept the second half close the entire time, getting all the way down to the goal line and then having a sack fumble returned for 6, making it a 2-score game. So I think Texas' defense played very well. Their wide receiver room made some big plays for Quinn Ewers. The only differentiation between these two teams is the fact Quinn Ewers took a lot of sacks. He does not escape the pocket at a high level. He does not sense pressure. He's basically oblivious to pressure, and he's not that great of a college quarterback. And I think if you're going to assign any blame to the coaching staff of Texas, it is the fact they did not take Quinn Ewers out of the game and put in Arch Manning just to try and get something else going, because clearly he was making more mistakes than he was helping the team.
Maybe you want to pin the goal line situation on the coaching staff, which I can understand. I don't understand why you roll the pitch out to the left on 2nd and goal from the 1. Maybe you just have no faith in your interior offensive line to get a push on the Buckeyes. But still, you got 3 more chances to tie the game up from 1 yard away. Just keep giving it to your running backs. Maybe you don't want to give it to Blue or Q-Wiz because he's smaller. You've got bigger boys on the bench. Hand it to one of the large fellas. Put a defensive tackle in the game. Do what Chicago did early in the year and hand it off to a fullback. Do something down near the goal line to try and crack through. That was a bit of a coaching error. But after they made that mistake, they correctly assessed that, hey, we're not getting 5-6 rushing yards down the goal line. We've got to try and throw it into the end zone, which Quinn Ewers was incapable of doing.
Or like an incredibly big moment earlier in the game, on that 4th down conversion, they put Arch Manning in for him to run the ball. They could have put him in to give the defense something else to think about, where Arch Manning could have just taken it up the middle or outside or handed off to one of their running backs.
Or, hear me out on this, Arch Manning could have thrown the ball. The son of the Manning prodigy, the highest rated quarterback prospect we've seen in a while. Maybe have him throw a ball in the biggest game of the season.
That is a threat, but his legs become a threat when you put him on the field, which Quinn Ewers just does not possess.
Just a really disappointing game for me. As you can tell, Michigan fan, unsuccessful hate watch of the Ohio State Buckeyes. Looking over there at them, Will Howard played one of the best games of his collegiate career. Massive, massive run there to really give Ohio State the edge, put them over the top, get them in a position to take the lead. If he had housed that, I would not have been surprised, but that turf monster remains undefeated. As a passer, found his receivers fairly consistent. They had a few drops, had Jeremiah Smith kind of bracketed and taken away all game by one of the best defensive backs in all of college football, and some pretty high-level safety help, so that is what it is. On the ground, Travion Henderson, somewhat effective. Quinshon Judkins, somewhat effective, but they did their dirty work through the air, on screen passes, on checkdowns, on motions out of the backfield. It's going to be hard to stop any team which can roll out 5-6 high-level elite receiving threats at a time. Notre Dame is going to have their hands full dealing with them. Defensively, they definitely could have given up more points. They didn't play their best game defensively. It's not like they just went out and starched them like they did Oregon, and Oregon kind of had to crawl their way back in the second half of a finished game. But looks like the best team in the country.
Yeah, in both college football semifinal games, I know Riley Leonard did not play a particularly great game. He did have 2 interceptions.
Yeah, pretty good second half.
In both games, the team with the better quarterback won the game, or the team with the quarterback that was playing significantly better. Drew Aller, maybe, you know,
he is not better
he
than
turns
Riley
things around
Leonard
next year. But Riley Leonard was better than Drew Aller. Will Howard, better than Quinn Ewers, is certainly more athletic than Quinn Ewers. His ability to add yards on the ground gave Ohio State the edge there.
Carnell Tate stepping up, even though he had that drop earlier in the game, which cost Ohio a touchdown, and being Ohio State's leading receiver also feels like it's worth talking about, because you got Jeremiah Smith, you've got the running backs, you got a Mecca Ibuka. When your third wide receiver down can step in and lead the team in receiving yards of a college football semifinal game, it is a big, big problem for whoever you are going to be up against. They are 5 deep at the wide receiver room with 5 5-stars. It's a troubling matter.
It's a testament to their wide receiver recruiting, their coaching staff, the fact that Texas successfully shut down Jeremiah Smith, took him completely out of the game. And then Ohio State, they didn't try and fight that. They didn't try and force the ball to Jeremiah Smith, and it was the next man up. Emeka Ibuka made some plays here and there. I believe he had around 50, 60 receiving yards. Carnell Tate made a couple big plays. I think that is a big testament to obviously their recruiting and having talented receivers behind their number 1 and number 2 guys, but also the willingness to go to the number 2 and number 3 options.
JT Tuimoloau bouncing over to the defensive side of the ball is also deserving of praise. Obviously going to be a high pick whenever he decides to come out. I don't know how many years of eligibility, if any, he's got left. The NIL and COVID are strange things. Day 2 pick, phenomenal athlete on the outside, 1.5 sacks. A big reason why Quinn Ewers did not feel super comfortable in the pocket. Well, that's kind of how he always looks. So defensively, I could just point to anyone on this defensive line and say, hey, they got so-and-so amount of pressure, so they got a sack, they forced a fumble. The Ohio State defensive line is better than anyone in the country besides Michigan and maybe Texas, but they definitely outperformed Texas' defensive line today. Great team. We can keep waxing on poetic line, go position group by position group. I think we've said what we need to say, unless you've got any closing comments.
At the end of the day, the only difference was the fact Quinn Ewers stinks.
At the end of the day, the only difference was the fact, I'll actually give you that one, sure. I was going to say something snarky about Ryan Day, but I'm going to give it a week. I'm going to let Ryan try and win the national championship. We're going to see who loses big games better, Ryan Day or Marcus Freeman. Fingers crossed, it is Ryan Day.
That has been our reaction to the Ohio State-Texas game. Let us know what you think down in the comments below. Like the video, subscribe, use code Thicc on Underdog, get bonus cash up to $1,000, and we'll be back next week with our wild card NFL playoff reactions.